Hello everybody, my name is Manuez and welcome to another Eternal Top Decks video series. Today it's time for an update on an almost forgotten and considered dead archetype, Stonescar Jito, or as I would call it by now, Rally Aggro, since it doesn't really run Jito anymore. Like, I'm running Run, but it is not quite a Jito centered deck anymore, since the card Frontier Jito is basically a bad card now. But let's dive right in. The strategy itself, outside of Jito itself, is still really great and has been doing phenomenally for me. So let's go over the cards. Basically the deck is still mostly the same actually as it was for Grenadin Drone, for Knifejack, for Oni Ronin, for Pyroknight. I added for Ruthless Stranger in place of the Jitos and the one Dark Return that I used to run before, because that also got a little less appealing, I think. And Ruthless Stranger is actually a pretty solid aggressive 1-drop, as we've already seen in the Rakano Jito, since drawing 2 actually makes it one of the best 1-drops you can have. And if you ever draw more than 2 at the same time, they are amazing. Like, I had games where I had like 3 out, and having 3 4-1 1-drops is pretty incredible on a lot of boards and makes blocking a lot harder for the opponent, especially with like a Rally or a Bandit Queen. And next we have 4 Argenport Instigators, 1 Frontier Jito. The idea behind running 1 Jito is basically that there comes a point in the game where the fact that it costs 2 rather than 1 hardly matters, because otherwise you might have a spare power anyway. And it's nice to have the option to have charge. Like, for example, in the mid game you have like a 1-drop or 2 in your hand, or like a Shadowlands guide or something like that, and then having charge from a Jito can still be really nice to push the opponent a little further to the edge. Or, for example, you playing against Harsh Rule and you sandbag like 1 or 2 1-drops and a Frontier Jito, and then they Harsh Rule you, and suddenly you post Harsh Rule with like 4 power, you can drop 2 1-drops and a Jito and get in for 5 damage again, for example, which is really great. And that's why I'm still currently running 1. I mean, it's even possible that 2 could work. I don't think more than 2 can work, because the card is still really clunky and 1-1 is really weak, and you can't really profitably use it until like turn 3 usually now. So the correct number is somewhere between 0 and 2. I didn't hate the 1 so far, and I could see a second, but it's also not like super important. But if I would cut it, I would probably consider like running the Force Rally again, or like an additional removal, like another Suffocate or something, not sure. But right now there's nothing that I desperately want, so I'll still keep playing with the 1 Jito to see how it keeps performing, and how if I get to a point where I really dislike it and want to cut it entirely. And yeah, the other units are 4 Assembly Line, 4 Shadowlands Guide, and I went back to 4 Bandit Queen, simply because we lost a lot of charge with the Jitos, and there's these games like against sweepers or in general where you just need that one more attacker right away, and having a Bandit Queen there is more beneficial than a Rally, which is why I went back to 4 Queen, 3 Rally right now. And so far that has been fine. Like, Queen can sometimes be a bit clunky, simply because hitting the force power is not a guarantee on 25 power. Sometimes it takes a little till you hit that force power, but so far it has been alright, and I just like having a couple charge units to like put the opponent off balance, or like hit them right after a sweeper, for example. And regarding the spells, it's also still basically the same. For Rapid Shot, pretty self-explanatory. Basically the best offensive combat trick in the game, and great help in pushing through basically any blocker in the game. To Suffocate, basically the best answer in reliably dealing with anything that costs 3 or less, in the game, including all the high health units like Bloodcaster, Combre Healer, Seraph, and so on. Just doing a really great job there against all the good defensive units that inflict like the most damage to a deck like this. So still pretty happy with those, especially with so much Combre around. And 4 Torch, just super efficient, super flexible, kills opponents, kills blockers, kills relic weapons, does everything basically. And yeah, last but not least, we have the remaining 3 rallies that I'm currently running. That is just another way to benefit from our going wide with so many 1-drops and punish the opponent for a lack of like early game sweepers and enough cheap spot removal, since a single blocker or 2 won't do enough to stop a rally from killing you. Yeah, and the rest is just 25 power. Nothing changed here. And I can say this deck is pretty amazing. Like, I'm currently rank 8. I was rank 12 like 1 or 2 days ago, and used this to climb those 4 ranks back up, and my overall record to do so was 15-2, which is pretty incredible. And overall, let me think, my overall record right now with the deck since the nerf is 49-31. So, oh no, not 31, 21. I'm 49-21, so that's like way above 60%, I think around 65% roughly. I would need to check my spreadsheet, but not gonna do it like in the middle of the video. But yeah, I think it's like above 65%. I think it's like almost 70% at the moment. I used to be at like 64%, and then I hit like this 15-2 win streak, which probably puts me close to 70% right now over a total of 70 games, which is pretty impressive for a sample size like that, I would say. I rarely have like win percentages like this over a sample size of 70-80 games. Normally it is a lot lower already, which is an indicator that this is like already a reasonably normalized win percentage for this deck, and also feels like that since most decks right now just can't handle this. They just flat out die. There's so many matchups where you just steamroll people so hard with like an average draw, just dumping a bunch of 1-drops. It's ridiculous. So if you want to crush ladder really hard, I can only recommend to pick this up right now and destroy all those greedy mid-range decks. They're not gonna be happy to see this. They are pretty helpless against this. Alright, so Jito is dead. Long live Jito. Jito lives Jito, aka Rally Aggro. That's it for the deck tech, since the deck hardly changed much since my last pre-nerf video, basically. So, as usual, I'm gonna take this into battle, jump into some top 10 Masters games late in the season, and see how we're doing, to show you how the deck performs in this current environment. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the games in a moment.